Well, welcome everyone. This is Patrick Vanderheide. I'm an employee here at Tableau. I'm the community manager for the support side of the house, and our team is responsible for helping to answer questions and monitor and maintain the community forums. Welcome to this month's Think Data Thursday, and this month we have presenter Simon Runc, who is Simon is a community ambassador, which means that he's recognized by our team for all of the contributions he makes to the community and all of the assistance he provides with user questions in the community. So we have a group of customers that we recognize as ambassadors, and they have a few special privileges and can come in and help out customers in our community in an ongoing way. So that's great. A little bit about Simon and his presentation this morning. So Simon is a data analyst for Atheon Analytics, where his ongoing mission is to humanize data for their clients. They work primarily in the retail sector, supporting retailers and their suppliers. And Simon has been a data analyst in the retail sector for a little over 10 years, and he's been using Tableau for the last 2.5 years. He has a keen interest in all things data, with a mixture of statistics, logical critical thinking, and data visualization to interrogate data until it reveals its insights. And like a lot of analysts, he's picked up geeky skills to manipulate most data sets, and he enjoys learning. And he says his greatest skill is the ability to re-engineer and repurpose other people's smartness. And so that's really where the community comes into play well. So before we get going, and let me just, here we'll have a nice picture of Simon too. Here he is. Before we get going, if you have any questions as we go along, please go ahead and put those questions in the Q&A, into the Q&A panel, and I will go ahead and try to address those directly. If there's a question for Simon, we'll get to that after the end of his presentation if there's still time. Otherwise, Simon has a Twitter account, and of course, you can always come to the community and ask a question and just use the mention feature in the community to find Simon as well that way. And so I guess without further ado, Simon, let me go ahead and change over to you being the presenter.
Okay.
And
cool. And, 1 second. Do I need to... and can you see my screen?
I cannot yet. Let's see.
Share screen. There we go.
There we go. Thanks.
Cool. Excellent stuff. Right. Okay, you can see my screen and hear me okay?
Indeed.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Cool. Okay, so thank you for joining me, and welcome to my first and hopefully not last, we'll see how it goes, Think Data Thursday on My Daily AdVIZture. So I'm just going to say, where did this sort of come from, and what are we going to do today? So at the start of this year, I went on my annual holiday to my favourite country, which is India, and spent 3 weeks in there travelling around, visiting different places, etc. And I wanted to find a far more engaging and sort of a way that would do the continent justice of my journey and the adventure that my wife had around there. It was just a great time. So showing kind of a Google didn't seem to quite fit the bill, and I wanted to have a bit of a play around with Tableau. So I built our Indian AdVIZture, which you can see here, which, as you can see, it takes in the routes that I took. So you can see where I visited Fort Kochi and Kottayam and Kumali, and sort of got around. You can see the sort of transport modes I took as well here. So I can click and I can see all the things I did by train and tuk-tuk and bus. I also have some in-transit routes shots here as well, because as anyone knows, if you travel around India, travelling around is half the fun of it. So here's a few shots of me on the bus and a few sort of places about the sort of beautiful countryside and tea plantations and everything that you find in India. And then I could also, to show my actual particular journeys, I can click on a place I stayed at for a while, and it brings up a little viewer up here of my photos. And I can then click on there, and I've got a nice little viewer of my little web viewer of my photos that I host on Google Photos. and a little bit of text about it. So it seems like a really good way of capturing the spirit of my holiday and showing it to people and hoping them to sort of share my experience and how good India was. So that brings me on what we're going to try and do today. I wanted to do something a little bit new, and in the blog when I was writing up this, I sort of noted that first of all, this is quite a repeatable process. We could just switch in the root files and the photos and create any AdVIZture we wanted. And also quite a few of the sort of the tricks are applicable to sort of wider Tableau problems as well. And the big one of that is thinking about the data before you do the viz. So what we're going to try and do today is my daily AdVIZture. So this is my daily AdVIZture. So my journey to work in the morning is quite an adventure. I quite enjoy it, and it informs 3 forms of transport, similar to my India one. And so I take the bike from my house and I cycle to the station, and I've got a few in-transit shots here. It's a little Venice. I've been like a bit of a tourist the last few weeks, taking shots on routes. I'm Madame Tussauds, everyone's favourite. And I'm able, exactly the same as the other one, I'm able to have a look at the things I did by train and by bus. And at each of the locations, at Cranfield University, which is where our office is based, I can click on there, and I've taken a few shots of being on holiday at my office. So we are going to try and build this all up today pretty much from scratch. There's going to be a little bit of here's one I built earlier, but generally we're going to build the whole thing from scratch. So we've got to think of, first of all, about what data we need. So the first thing that we need is we're going to need route data. So we're going to need point data that draws these routes that I took. And I found some quite useful little tools for doing that. I need the GPS positions of my photographs as well, which is available in the metadata of any photograph you take with pretty much any device. And I found, again, a nifty little tool for just dragging that information out in a couple of simple clicks. So the general agenda for the day, and PowerPoint eat your heart out, is we're going to broadly cover some resources for getting route node data from Google Maps and GPS data from photos. We're going to look at the shape and grain of data to making the data right for the viz. I think about a third of the questions I answer from the community, the real answer is reshape your data, and then you wouldn't even be here asking that question. Blending. So we'll notice that we'll blend between the route data and the destination shot data as well. We'll look at maps and background images. We'll look at one of my favourite things is nulls are your friends. So we're going to use nulls quite a bit in this to do things. The fact that Tableau doesn't plot nulls is something we can take advantage of when we do or don't want things plotted, but we don't want to filter out that from the entire sheet. We're going to look at a couple of tricks with shapes. We'll look at action filters and highlight actions and how we can build them up to create some quite complicated and quite fine-tuned behaviour, but doing it in quite a simple way. And we're going to look at URL actions, web-stored images, and the web viewer object. And there's an underlying theme of breaking complicated problems down into lots of simpler ones, and then we just have to solve the simple problems. That's the aim anyway. So first off is getting hold of the data that I need. So the first thing I want to do is get hold of some route data. Initially, I would do my India one. I tried to look at downloading shapefiles of Indian rail networks and things. It's exciting and interesting in itself, but it was going to be a lot of hard work. And I found this tool here called the GPS Visualizer. So first of all, you just put your route into Google Maps. I can click on the transport. So I take the bus, and the bus that I take is C1. So I can click on that bus. And this, I can now just copy this URL into this GPS visualizer. All the links that I'll do on here, I will post onto the Think Data Thursday thread for this. And we just pop that URL in there. We're going to change the comma just so it opens it. So nice, easy, and we just click convert. And in a couple of seconds, it's gone away. And I now have all the route node data, all the long lat that makes up that route. And it's in a nice CSV file, which I can download. And I can open that up in, let's open that up in Excel, show you what it looks like. And there we go. So we've got all of the long lat, and we've done that. So I did that for each of my routes. And so It's a very easy way, and we can just union them in Tableau quite easily from the Excel. So the other bit of information that I needed was was to get the GPS information out of my photos. So if I go into the properties of a photo and click on the details, you'll see you have all of this rich metadata. And I thought initially I was going to copy and paste. There's the GPS stuff. I thought I could copy and paste all this out. Oh, God. And looking online, I found this tool called Exif. There's instructions on my blog exactly how this works, or exactly how to use it. I don't know how it works, but exactly how to use it. And it's a command line utility. So I'm sure if you knew what you're doing, you could do this more easily. But if you pop it in the same folder that your photos are in, open up your command line prompt and go to that folder. This is you type into Google and find this. I never use command line prompts, so click on that, and that takes me to that. And then all I do is I put in this command here, which, as you can see, you can probably see what it's doing. It's using the Exif tool. It's doing the file name. It's collecting the image size, the GPS, lat, and long. And if you add it to this string, I've not tried this, but I'd be amazed it's not how it works. If you add to this string, you can pull out other bits of data. And I believe this works on all kinds of files, and I think even actually hardware as well to pull out metadata. I think click enter, and in a couple of seconds, I now have a lovely CSV with all of the things that are in that folder. Let's open that with Excel again. I have a nice thing. I've got all my images, and I have my long and my lat. It's coming in degrees, minutes and seconds, but I will show you how we can easily convert that in Tableau into decimal degrees. So that is that's all the data that I wanted. So how did I sort of put it all together? So I have a tab here for each of my routes. Anything really. So the only things I've added, you can see this is exactly the same file as before, exactly the same as it downloaded, and I've added in the path, so just literally a row counter all the way down, and I've added in a node.
Oops, Simon, where your voice is tailing off. Just to give it a second here, see if we can hear your voice a little bit better.
Node name. This is my hood. Counts as a hood. How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better, Simon.
Yeah, sorry. Cool. So where did you get to when it dropped?
You had just started on this screen.
Brilliant. Cool. So I added in. So this is exactly the same data as came in through the GPS visualizer tool, and I've added in the path because we need to tell Tableau what order to put these in, and they come in the correct order. And I've added a couple of fields. I've added node type. So we're going to use this to create our shapes for destinations, waypoints, etc. And I've given it a node name as well. So this is this is my node name. This is the start, which is my house, and this is Simon's hood. As I was saying, I'm sure that a West London leafy suburb counts as a hood, but I'm going to try and keep myself straight and say that it is. And I've done that for each of these files here. So that is the data that I've brought in. So here's my train journey. So this is from to Euston Station, to Milton Keynes Station, and my bus routes. I've also created the in-transit shots. So this, again, you can recognize this from the file we pulled out before using the Exif tool. All I've added is the image name and which route it relates to. Now, one important thing here to note is when we union all this in Tableau, Tableau will bring in the tab name in Excel or the table name or the file name for CSVs if we carefully name that, we can take advantage of the fact that that name means something. So, for example, here, home to Euston by bike, I've got the route and I have the transport mode. No need to add 2 columns here, as I can use a split function to split them out when it comes in. And I've very carefully named my in-transit route the same as the route here, so that we can, so that the data knows where each one of them is. And the destination shots data is even simpler. So this is we're going to blend this data. So we need to make sure that our destination name is the same as the one we're using from our route data. So when we click on Simon's Hood, it takes us to the images, excuse me, that relate to Simon's Hood. I've given it an image name. I've given it some text that we can show. I've also taken the image URL. So a quick thing. On Google Photos, to get the URL for just the image, you want the copy image address. If you just take that top bit there, you will get all of the Google Photo Chrome around the image as well, which you might or might not want. If you do that and take that, you get just the photo part of it sent through to the web viewer. So that is all the data. So all we need to do is put that all together in Tableau. So I will open this up. I will connect to Excel. Here's my data. I will just drag that in there, and I will be using the Union tool just to plot those together. So as you can see, Tableau's built that in, and we can see we've got the table name here. So we can see that that's going to be quite useful. We can parse that out and take out the Euston to MK part as our route, and then we can take out the train as our transport mode. Now, because we want the in-transit shots and we want the route information to be on the same map, we have to have it in the same data source. We can't blend between it and do that. So we're also going to union the in-transit shots as well. Now none of the fields between them are actually the same. So this will actually create a bit of a sort of a widest table with some things are null that come from one data source and one for the other. And this will be actually quite useful later. Anyone who's used to do what we refer to as data blending with Excel pivot tables is well aware of this little technique. So let's have a look at the data. So I've put the formulas and things in because we've only got an hour. So you don't want to see me hacking away with formulas, especially with my terrible typing. So let's have a look at the data. So we've got our table name here. I've created a formula that brings me out the route. If we have a quick look at that here, and 1 second, let's zoom it to. So if we look at, there we go. So that is the route. So we're just taking the table name, we're splitting it on the dash, and we're taking the first one. And unsurprisingly, the transport mode is just the second part of that. And you can start to see here how the data is kind of put together. So we don't have any paths for our in-transit shots. We don't have image names. The long and latitude are on different fields. But we can sort all that out in due course. So the other calculations that we need to make is we want to put all of the route data together. So I've created a route all rows. So if I just show you what that formula looks like very quickly. So there we go. So if the in-transit route is null, then use route. Otherwise, use the in-transit route. So what the effect of that has is that it gives us a route for the in-transit shots as well as the thing which is going to be exactly the same. So now the thing we've got a separate fields and we need to treat them separately, and we've got them combined. The other thing we want to do is to populate the transport mode. You'll notice in the in-transit shots, we don't have a transport mode. So we really would want to, because we want to colour those in-transit shots the same colour as the transport they were taken on. So for that, we're going to use an LOD. And this is the only LOD we use. The entire of this is built with no aggregate calculations whatsoever. In fact, every calculation, apart from this one LOD, are all just single Boolean tests. I've even used the IIF version of if to show how simple it is. And it's all because we're breaking the problem down into lots of small ones that just become essentially yes-no logic gates, really. So if I want to, my transport mode all roads is this formula here. So if I just zoom in a little bit here, there we go. So we are, if you have a look at the thing here, we've got our route all rows. So both the in-transit and the route data has our home to use, and it's got the same thing. And it's assessing what is the max of that from here. And it is bike here and it's null here. And the max of anything where there's a something and a null is going to be the something. So that means we now have that in our data. So the other bit we need to do is we need to convert our long lat into decimal degrees. So let's have a look at the formulas for doing that. So if I look at my latitude formula, so this here is the formula for converting, oops, I go with a pen. So we do the degrees plus the minutes divided by 60 plus the seconds divided by 3,600. And we end up with this formula here. Now, this all looks quite scary, but the way I've built it up is not that I've just imagined the entire thing from stage one. I've used a very useful indeed, as I'm finding more and more and more, drag and drop to see what's going on part of Tableau's calculator. So I can just grab that part of it and I can drag that in there and see what it's doing. Okay, so it's taking the third space and splitting it on there. Brilliant. So we've got that, and we can then have a little look what the next bit does. So the next bit will do a replace. So we're replacing that with nothing, and then we come to integer. So although this calculation looks quite complicated, actually we've broken it down into lots of simple steps that we solve one step at a time, and we can end up building some quite complicated logic without too much brain power for that. And the final thing is, I said, we need to use the same measure. We need to use the same field, long and latitude, for both sets of data. So if we have a look here, we've got the latitude in that one. We've got the in-transit in decimal in that column there. And we've just done so if I look at my latitude to use here, we've just say, if the route equals transit SOT, then use the in-transit latitude, otherwise just use the latitude that comes from the path data. So hopefully all that makes sense. So we can, now we've done all that, we can start building away. So first thing we want to use our the longitude to use. Here we want to use our latitude to use in here. So that gives us a single point, which is the average of all the data points that I have. I can then, I want this to be a line because I want to draw the draw the routes, and I want to tell it what order to draw them in. Now, currently it's drawing all the ones to the one, so I need to also put in the route data. So now it's starting to look exactly like, so that's my first part of my route. And actually, I could actually color it on that so you can have a little look at what it's doing. But we do have this point here, this rogue point. This is always a problem with doing this kind of union, is that there are some parts we want for one side of the problem and there's others we want for the other. So by putting this to be the bring in the image name, that is going to increase the level of detail of my visualization. And those points will now get plotted along here. And because they're going to be behind shapes, it doesn't really matter. So now I can bring on my transport mode. There we go. And I can actually move that. I really wanted to sort of behind there. And we're also, for what we did here, so in the map layers, I quite like the dark map for this particular thing, and I use the 10% thing. I'll add a little bit of streets and highways, I get a bit more thing, and suddenly it's looking pretty good, and we no longer have, you see the black thing's gone like behind this, and so we've kind of hidden it. So this sort of set of tricks I'm going to call like what the eye don't see, the chef gets away with. So we've managed to hide those, and we've now got our route. So now we need to create our, and we also want to label that. So I have got a field here called destination blend name, and this just says if the node type is destination, then give it a name, otherwise null. And this is where nulls again are our friends, because anything that is not a destination won't get a label. And I will just do that. There we go. And you can actually move these labels around. I wouldn't do this for production. It's a lot of maintenance, but for a one-off thing, you can sort of move these around so you can get them into sort of a nice area. Cool. So the next bit to do is we need to add on our icons. So if I hold the control button, I drag that across, and that gives me a second axis. And in here, I don't want the path. In fact, I'm going to remove all of this, and we'll start from scratch. And we want this one to be shapes. So we want a shape for each one. So what shapes are we going to use? So if we look, we've got a calculation here called shape dimension. And all this is a thing that says it's looking at the node type, and if it's null, then it makes it in-transit shot. Otherwise, it uses the node type, which is destination and waypoints. So if I drag that onto my shape, I will get a shape for each. I also need to put in my my route as well. So now we're starting to put these shapes out across where we want them to be. So we will change these shapes. Now, I use custom shapes quite a lot. It's one of my favourite things in Tableau. They're very easy to do. You just need to go and get some shapes. You drop them into a folder in your My repository under shapes, and you have them there to access. And my favourite place for getting shapes is Flat Icon, which is just an awesome resource. I type in train. It will. If it's working, there we go. It will bring me up loads and loads of train shapes. And I can pick the one that I like. I can download them as PNGs. PNG is very important here because that gives us a transparent background. So my destination, I want to be that. My in-transit shot is my camera. My waypoint is there. And I've also got these waypoint labels. This is so that when we select the routes, that we get the label for both sides of the journey, because Euston Station's got two ends to it. It's got me arriving by bike and leaving by train. And I've got a little tiny dot. I've got lots of little shapes that are quite useful in Tableau. It's a little tiny dot here. So I click all that, and I resize those. And we can also add on the transport mode to them as well. So that's now mirroring that, so that's all looking good. Now, again, we've got this problem. We've got these null shapes here. So these are the average of all of our path data that we want to get rid of. So first thing we'll do is we can make the problem smaller. So this formula here. So if it's destination, make it 2, otherwise it equals 1, and if it's null, it'll equal null. And this is my sizing. So if I drag this onto my size, the problem's got smaller, but it's not gone away. So here's now my first trick with shape. I wish it was a little nicer than this, but it does the job, which is what it's all about. I have in here an empty shape. It's just if I open it up in Paint, you can see it's just a transparent, empty shape, and it's absolutely minute as well. It's only 10 pixels wide. I can make it even smaller. Click OK, and now the problem has gone away. So that is that. And we also want to put waypoint labels in there as well. So I have got here a waypoint name, unsurprisingly. This is looking at whether it contains waypoint, give it a node name, otherwise null. So it's kind of the reverse of the destination one. And I'll pop that onto the label. But what we're going to do here is we're going to make this highlight only. So this will give us the effect that when we click on a transport thing in the filter, in the highlighter, it will show the label from there to there without cluttering up the screen. And then we can just dual axis all of this, and there we go. So one of the problems here I've got is that the scale of my cycling is very different to the scale of how far I can get to by train. So I want to get rid of those, and this is where I made my insert map. So this is where it's going to be quite useful to have this in-transit route. This route only applies to the in-transit shots. I can get rid of my home to Euston pictures only. We can't get rid of the null. If we get rid of the null, we get rid of all the path data, and that just gets rid of those things there. So now it's now looking nice and tidy. And to create an insert map, nice and easy, we can go in here. We can now remove that. I can use these to zoom right into that bit there. I can keep sort of zooming in. Oops, I have forgot. Oops, naughty me, to add in the level of detail for the image name. So this is going to now give me a point, a mark per shot. And then what I can do in Tableau is I can get rid of I can stop the user from being able to mess up my nicely sized graph. So that is, and we'll bring that in as a floating object underneath the main map, and you get quite a nice effect, I think, of getting a kind of insert map when you want to have it in greater detail, when I use my India viz as well. So the next bit we want is, if we go back to what we're trying to aim for, is we've got this InTransit Viewer. So click on the picture and it shows us here. And I've decided to do this using I would use this using the background images. So the first thing to do with the background image is you need to create a field that will control it. In my situations, often the field will come in and you're using it to plot heat maps against people click on websites and things. So I've created a latitude ITS standing for in-transit shot. Have a little look at it. It is just the number 0.9, and we'll see why I've done that in a second. And I've done a similar one for longitude as well, which is just 0.5. So how I set this up is I bring in those fields in here, and latitude in-transit shots. I go into my background images and I attach them. I need to make sure I attach them to the correct data source. I add an image. I click on Browse. I'm going to click that one. It's already picked up that that's the field that I want, but I can choose which field controls it, and I want it to go from 0 to 1. So all that is telling it how that's 0 and that side is 1. So we can click OK, and there we go. We now have our image in thing, and we can do a little bit of tidying up. Now, one of the problems we've got here is if I drag this in here, I've got the same image for every single thing. Not a problem at all. We can go back into our background images, and we can go and edit it, and we have an option in here to add a only show when, and I can click the image name, and I can click on here, and I can go Little Venice, and now that image only shows Little Venice. And I can keep repeating that to build up that an image goes with each one. Not supported at all, but if you have a lot of these images, there was this. There was a. I think I've lost the. I think I may have lost the link now. I'll post it up there. There was a talk in the TC14 on how you can hack the XML to bring in lots and lots of images if you have them all in a file in one big go. So that's one option. So if I keep that, you can notice why I put 0.9. I've got a little markup here. Remember, Tableau is just a drawing canvas. So at 0.5 and 0.9, I have a mark. I can move that to be a text, and I can bring my image name onto my text, and I've got an image. I can't use the title because I want this to collapse, and the title won't collapse properly. So this is a quite nice little way of doing that. And now, as we use the filters, it will filter to the correct image and show it as well. So that is the InTransit View. The legend, I've built it as an actual sheet rather than use a legend. I think we have more control over it. There's nothing very technical here. This is literally just showing the things. I'm going to use that as a floating object as well. And the other bit I've got is my destination shots. So my destination shots, again, this is the data here. We've got the GPS latitude to convert. Now, because it's got the same field names as that, you can actually just copy and paste. So I can cut those, I can copy them, and I can, oops, don't want to do that. I want to paste them. And you'll notice those fields come into here now, and because the names are the same, that all works. Roddy's just released a blog on maintaining your workbook calculations the lazy way, using this exact trick with a kind of master workbook of this. So definitely worth checking out. But I had these anyway, and all we need to do here is bring in the long, the lat, and we want to bring in the image name, and we want to make this into a shape, and the shape we're going to use is going to be the camera icon. So we're going to use the camera, and we also want to color these. So we can't, unfortunately, because they're PNGs, we can't color them that way. So I've created a field called 1, which is just the number 1, and we can drag that onto the color, and now I have full control of all of my palettes, and I can color the things how I want them. The last thing to do here is we want to be able to send a URL action from these images to our web viewer. So I've got the image URL. Now, with the image URL, this is the one that we've got here, you will notice that at the very end of it, you've got this bit of text here. This is the size that it brings the image back in. So I want to take control of that because I want to have a little fiddle with that to make sure that it fits exactly my purpose. So I have created a version of this, which is exactly the same, but taken out the size. And this is done again using the split function. So we split equals and we bring in the first part of it. That means we can then, we're then able to add our own sizing and vary it depending on what size image we want to come back. So that is the thing I'm going to add to my level of detail. I need to add anything to my level of detail if I want to have access to it in the actions. The last few bits, we've got our title, nothing particularly difficult there. And our image text is exactly the same, but we've got the image text. So we've created, those are all the sheets that we've created for it. So the next part is putting it all together. So, not that one, it is that one here. So I've brought in, so I've put these onto the into a dashboard, and I've done a little bit of tarting up, but generally it's exactly the same as what we've just created. And we'll notice here, this is my InTransit shot viewer, brought in as a floating object. This is also a floating object, and so is this. And I brought my map in here. Currently, they're showing all values, but we're going to filter that, so that's not a problem at all. We've got this here is our web viewer, and down here we've got our text. So now it's a question of building up the actions to make it sing and dance as we want, hopefully. So first one we want to build is the highlighter from there. So let's go to our dashboard and actions. I would say I rarely use the user's filter. I tend to like to have the fine-grained control that it gives you by taking these up manually. And you'll see here, by building up lots and lots of simple actions, we can create some quite complicated behavior without having to think too hard, which is always a good thing. So first of all, we want to highlight action is our first one. So I'll just make that a little bit bigger so they can see it all nice and easy. So this is our highlight transport. This works off of the legend as a select, and this will affect both the insert map and the main map. And I'm going to select the field here. You'll see I've added these ones and zeros. You will find out why in a second. So the transport mode, and now we have that highlight action. So every time I click on that, it now highlights that route, and you'll notice because these labels were on highlight, these now appear and disappear. So we get quite a nice effect there. So the next thing we want to do is to be able to send the in-transit shots to our in-transit shot viewer. So let's go back into Dashboard Actions. This one we're going to do as a filter action. Okay, so this is our show in transit shots. And this again, this will work off of both maps. We want both maps to be able to trigger it. It's a select action we want. We want to run on a single select. We don't want people to be able to select two things. And this will be, the target for this will be the in-transit shot viewer. We're going to exclude all values on leaving the filter because we want it to recollapse again. And the bit we're going to send, we're just going to send the image name. And click OK, and we can just check that that's all working nicely. Yep, brilliant. So now as we click on those, we've got that. And Alexander Mao has written a fantastic blog on this. Is essentially the Viz in tooltip before Tableau actually release it officially. So there's a way of doing that. So that's the other one. The next action we want to do is be able to show the destination viewer from any destinations that we click. So we're going to our actions again, and this time we're going to set up again a filter action. So this is going to be our show destination map. So again, a select and single, and this is again run off both of the maps. But this one now targets the destination title and the map. I want them to come together. And we're going to send it the destination blend name, but the destination shots map is actually from the destination shot. So we're sending this across data sources. So this is from that data source, and this is from that, and and that's where the naming convention is quite useful. If we hadn't named it the same, we could use the edit relationships to tell Tableau that this field is the same as this field. So we can click OK now. And on leaving, again, I want to exclude all values. I want it to collapse when you're no longer on it. So let's click OK. Let's have a look how that works. There we go. And on leaving it, we clear the filter. So far, so good. Right, the next bit we want to do is we want to send the URL action from an image we click on in here to the web viewer to display it. So if I go into my dashboard actions again and set up a URL action this time, so this is going to call my show destination shot, I'll call it. And this is run from the destination image map. It's run on a select, and I've just copied and pasted the bit in here. I will go for exactly what it is. It's just for speed. So what I've done here is I've got the image URL with no size. I've then put in my own equals W, which means the width. I've got a parameter which lets me fiddle with the width, and I've got this /no. I'm not sure what it means. I think it means it doesn't allow the aspect ratio to change, which means by changing the width, the height gets defined. I'm absolutely sure of that, but that seems a sensible thing to be. What that means, I should probably test it out. So I can click OK on that, and let's have a look how that works. So clicking on that will send a URL action and bring up the image. Now, just to show you why I put it under a parameter, the web image, you don't have a lot of control over the web viewer in terms of sort of dynamic resizing and responsiveness. So if I show us the image return width up here, all I've done up here is given myself a chance to sort of play with it. So I could, so rather than going to go and constantly refiddle with that number, I can sort of do that. Okay, that's a bit too small. Okay, that's too big. So it's got these scroll bars here, and I sort of found out eventually that sort of 3, 1, 5 for what I wanted to do was exactly the right size. Once I've set it all up, I can then hide that. So it's quite a useful thing for getting kind of quite fine-tuned behaviour from it. So that's now working very nicely indeed. So the other thing we need to do is when we click on the on the no, I'll set the parameter up wrong. Yep, there we go. 315. Thank you. There we go. So yeah, is we need to send the action down here. So that is quite an easy action to perform. So if we add this will be a filter action, and this is our show destination text, and this one will be sent from the destination image map. It will target the destination image text, and we're going to leave, again it's a select and run, and we're going to leave this filter on selection. I'll explain why I decided to do that in the end, and we're going to add that, and we're going to send the image name again. Now Tableau has, because I've got image name in both fields, Tableau's trying to be a bit clever, make sure that I'm sending the same data source, because that's all we need to send here. And we're going to have a little look how that works. So now, as I flick around, I now get the text that I want as well. Now, so we've got that. Now one of the issues is that unlike other boxes with a web viewer, you are unable to turn it off. You can't do it on selection. So when I click on here, I'm left with this floating image, and I can sort of click around and it stays there, and it's quite annoying. The reason that's why I left the text there, I don't want the image to just float, at least I'm going to have some text here, but I'd really like to be able to turn that off when someone goes back into this main screen to make a reselection. So any of you eagle-eyed people who saw my photos will notice that in my album, I also have a black image of exactly the same size as the other images, and so I can send that to the viewer from here. So if I set up another dashboard action, and again this will be a URL action, so this is send blank image to web viewer. This will be done on a select. This will work off of the maps or the transport mode, and again I've copied the link. This is just the URL link for this, and again I've parameterized that with the width of it, so it comes in exactly the same way as all the other images, and I can send that on a select. Yep, that's all set up correctly, which means when I click back in here now, it sends a blank image and blanks that out. Now I have still got a problem. I've now got this text, so I kept it here because I didn't want to have the image on its own, but I have got this issue here of this. So what can I do with this? And this is one of my new favourite things to do. So I'm going to set an action where I want to kill that text from here. So how would I do that? So I'm going to set up a filter action, and so I'm going to set this up. So this is going to be my kill destination text action. I'm going to unselect. May as well single select, everything else is, so you can't select multiple things anyway. And this will run off of the insert map, the transport mode, or the main map. It will send the action to the image text. And this is where you've seen I created those fields that were 1 and 0 as dimensions. So this is the sneaky trick. So we are going to send 0 equal to, in destination shots, equal to 1. So I sort of see this as sending it the sort of the curse of bad logic, or trumping it would be probably a better way. So we can send sort of bad logic and bad arguments, and we can trump our sheets by sending it that way. So if I now let's have a quick test of that. So if I now click in here, that now sends the curse of Trump to that image, and now it no longer shows because 1 doesn't equal 0. So let's have a quick test to make sure everything is working as expected. we have an issue here. So what is the problem? We haven't got the text here, so I wonder why that is. That's because I left it as a leave, and a really good way of debugging what's going on here. If you go into the sheets, you'll see that Tableau has created creates these sets when you hit trigger actions. As an aside, you can actually add these to context filters if you want to do some quite cool things with actions and LODs that you want to be responsive. But that's a different presentation. And it's still got, unfortunately, the cursor trump. So it's still got some bad logic and some poor arguments attached to it. So we need to find the antidote. So what is the antidote? So the antidote for trump, if only life was that easy, is to send it a logical argument. So we're already sending an action from here. So all we need to do is go into our actions, and where we're sending our destination text, we can add in here, we can send it, but actually, we're going to send you the trump kryptonite of good logic of 0 actually does equal 0. So now when I click on here, oopsie, it's got to send it 1, wasn't it? Sorry, it's got to send it 1. Right, that's okay. We can change that to the destination text. I forgot I actually sent it. 1 equals 1. There we go. That should do it. There we go. So now we have exactly what we want. We have full control. As we click on there, that will leave things. As we click out, if we click under here, that will get rid of that. That will leave that image. But the second we start doing that, that will send the cursor trump to the right side of the dashboard. And there we go. Hope you found that useful. And I think the thing to sort of to take away is the thought put up front about naming conventions, data structure. This is quite complicated in terms of its functionality. We've got a lot of very fine-grained, very specific, actually quite polished control over our dashboard. And we have one LOD, and we just have a bunch of row-level single logic test statements because data structure was correct at the start. So that's me done, Patrick. Hope that was enjoyable and useful.
Simon, that was great. I think that at least for my watching, and I'm sure for the audience, that the number of times that you utilize, little tips and tricks kind of throughout this presentation, I think it can be very helpful. Sometimes people go, how could I ever use this in my day-to-day work with a BI tool? And this is exactly the sort of thing where if you can go off and do this on your own and start to create something that's interesting to yourself and publish it and share it, all of the skills that you pick up along the way only enhance your ability to use Tableau to do kind of normal BI sort of things at work as well. So I think it's a wonderful presentation to kind of show the variety of tricks that are out there and tips to use Tableau really well. And at the end of the day, you end up with something that's just super useful to share with your friends about your trip. And I know I'm inspired to do this with a hike that I did this summer. So this is great. I don't see any questions. Are there any other questions from our audience? Let's see if we just if anyone has any questions. Go ahead and use the Q&A module if you have any questions. And we'll just give that a second or two. Well, that's
okay.
And I'm also going to check the chat one just to make sure there's nothing there. As well, this while we're waiting to see if anyone has a question, we have recorded this today, and I will go ahead and put this up on our YouTube channel. We have it in the Think and Talk Data portion of the Tableau software YouTube channel. And so you can watch this on demand and come back and build it at your whim. And Simon, you said you'll have files or a post that you'll put up with links to files and information in the Think Data Thursday.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'll post up this workbook onto the thread, and I've also got some links to some other useful things to do with long and latitude and things as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll post it all up there. Perfect.
Yep. I thought you covered some really great things about how you can't do data blending very well with lat and longs, having multiple maps off multiple data sources. So that was another good thing to have in there. Well, I don't see any questions coming in. So I think that the presentation was wonderful, Simon, and we'll go ahead and call it a wrap. Okay, everyone.
Great stuff.
Yeah, thanks again. And we have a presentation coming up next month. I think Pooja is on here. So we have a presentation coming up next month with Pooja and Sean. And we'll have some information about that posted shortly. And thanks again for everyone who showed up today. Take care.